Last thing I expected after 6 years together was to hear the woman I loved say, "Marcus, you were never my first choice. You were just my backup plan." She didn't yell it. She didn't cry. She said it plain, like she was discussing the weather, while folding clothes into a suitcase that wasn't meant for me. I remember standing there, boots still dusty from a double shift at the shipping yard, watching her hands move careful and slow. That's when it clicked. Every late night, every new outfit, every weekend, she disappeared in the name of work. It wasn't work. It was her way out. I didn't curse. I didn't beg. I walked out the door with nothing but my keys and my breath steady in my chest. That was 4 years ago. Now I've got a wife who actually sees me, a child who calls me daddy, and a home I built with my own hands. Monique. She's alone, broke, and texting me like I'm her last hope. Life has a way of flipping the script. And if you stick around, I'll show you exactly how the woman who thought I wasn't enough ended up drowning in the choices she swore would make her shine. Back then, I was just a man grinding towards something solid. My name's Darius, 34, born and raised on the east side of Richmond. I worked nights at the shipping yard, running crews and moving freight. The work was heavy, the hours long, but I wore that sweat with pride. It meant stability. It meant direction. When the sun went down, I cracked open my books. Supply chain formulas, logistics models, certifications. While other folks were chasing fast money, I was building brick by brick. My vision was clear: move up, consult, provide the kind of life my family never had. But Monique, she was different. Every few months it was another startup, another big idea, another new crowd. She liked the buzz of mixers and rooftop parties, shaking hands with folks who talked about changing the world while sipping overpriced cocktails. I didn't judge. I figured we had balance. She chased her light, I built the foundation. Together we made it work, or so I thought. This is why you need to subscribe and follow NaayaStories, because what happens next? You won't see it coming. We were living in a small duplex off Jefferson Avenue. From the outside it looked tired, peeling paint, grass that never quite grew right, a driveway just wide enough for my old Ford. But inside, we made it ours. Every Saturday morning, Monique and I hit estate sales. I'd hunt for furniture with strong bones, oak tables, worn-down armchairs, desks that only needed some love. I'd haul them back to the garage, roll up my sleeves, and bring them back to life. Sawdust in the air, stain on my palms, an old radio humming blues in the corner. That was my sanctuary. Monique had an eye for fabric. She'd flip through swatches while I sanded, choosing colors that gave each piece a second chance. For a while we were a team. Sweat and laughter turned someone else's throwaways into something beautiful. On our 5th anniversary, I gave her a promise ring we'd found at one of those sales. Simple vintage, nothing flashy. She wore it every day. For me, that was the start of forever. I didn't realize then that she already had forever mapped out with someone else. By the time year 6 rolled around, I was deep into my certification studies and already being trusted with more responsibility at the yard. My supervisor told me plainly, "Darius, you keep this up, you'll be running your own team in no time." That kept me pushing. I believed the sacrifices, the overtime shifts, the late nights with my head in textbooks were for both of us. For the house we talked about buying, for the family we dreamed about. But Monique had started to drift. She traded hoodies and vintage jeans for sleek dresses and soft beige coats. Her Instagram suddenly looked like an art magazine. She talked less about us and more about him, an interior designer she'd met at some networking mixer. She said his name, like it carried weight. I'd come home smelling of sweat and diesel, and she'd come home glowing from sipping wine with strangers. That's when her promise ring vanished. No conversation, no explanation. Just gone. The weekends that used to belong to us slowly slipped into someone else's calendar. Saturday mornings stopped being about estate sales. Instead, she was collaborating with her new friend. I'd ask where she was headed, and she'd answer flat: meetings, projects, bigger things. She said it like our life, our plans were small. One night, I noticed her perfume was different. It wasn't the warm vanilla I'd saved up to buy her last Christmas. It was sharper, richer, expensive, something I couldn't recognize. I stayed quiet. What was I going to do? Beg? That's not who I am. I kept working, kept studying, waiting for her to either come back down to earth or drift away for good. But the drift only widened. She began comparing. Her new circle flew to islands for birthdays. Meanwhile, I suggested a camping trip in Shenandoah. The way she looked at me, you'd think I'd offered her a cardboard box instead of a vacation. That's when I realized I wasn't in competition with another man. I was in competition with the idea of being upgraded. And in her eyes, I was always going to lose. The night everything shattered wasn't dramatic. No screaming. No glass breaking. Just 2 suitcases open on our bed when I walked in after a double shift. The sight stopped me cold. New clothes, still creased from the store, were stacked in perfect folds. "You going somewhere?" I asked, calm as a still lake. She didn't flinch. Didn't even look guilty. "Actually, I'm moving in with him." I repeated it back, slow. "Moving in with him." "Yes," she said, her hands never stopping their careful folding. "We've been together for months. This is the next step. He's offering me a partnership, opportunities you could never give me. Real projects, not just old furniture squeezed into a garage." Months. The timeline rearranged in my head, every late night, every work trip, every vanished weekend. Finally, she looked at me, pity in her eyes. "Darius, you've always been my backup plan. Never my first choice. You know that, right?" I should have felt anger, rage, maybe heartbreak. But what washed over me was clarity. 6 years, reduced to practice. 6 years of sweat, of dreams whispered late at night, of me covering her bills and cheering her ambition, erased with a smirk. She crossed her arms, confident. "Don't act shocked. You fix things. You don't create. You don't have ambition like he does. With him, I get security and real chances. With you, it's just camping trips and yard sales." I asked one final question. "So all that time, all those plans, it was just you killing time?" She laughed lightly like I was naive. "Those weren't real plans. They were comfortable fantasies. I outgrew this. I outgrew you." I stared at the stranger sitting on my bed and realized the woman I thought I knew had been gone for months. Maybe years. So I said the only thing that felt true, "Okay." Then I picked up my keys, walked out, and didn't look back. I drove east that night, straight to my brother Jamal's place. He opened the door, took one look at me, and didn't ask questions. He just handed me a beer and said, "Let's work on the deck." That weekend we rebuilt his half-rotted porch. Power tools humming, sawdust flying, sweat pouring. No conversations about Monique. No breakdowns. Just work. That was how I reset, building something real instead of arguing with ghosts. By Monday, I knew what I had to do. I returned to the duplex while she was gone, packed only what mattered, clothes, my books, my dad's old toolbox, and left the rest. Furniture, decorations, all of it could rot. I set my key on the counter with a note. Good luck with everything. No emotion. No begging. Just closure. From there, life shifted. Small apartment, folding table, air mattress, and silence. I blocked her on everything. Phone, socials, email. She made her choice. Don't miss what happens when life flips on those who think they can play you. Follow NaayaStories for the next turn. Silence became my weapon. And in that silence, I thrived. 6 months later, I passed my certification with top scores. The company promoted me into consulting, mapping distribution networks, redesigning systems, commanding respect. The paychecks grew. So did my peace. I bought a small house with a detached garage, finally able to build the workshop I'd dreamed about. Pegboards labeled drawers, tools hung like art. No one rolling their eyes at sawdust. No one dismissing the smell of stain. Just me and my work. I didn't isolate myself, though. I volunteered at the local animal shelter. That's where I met Tasha, a vet tech who didn't need to pose for pictures to prove her worth. She scrubbed kennels, calmed scared dogs, and laughed easily, like life didn't have to be so heavy. Our first dinner turned into weekends together. Months later, she moved in. No drama. No clashing egos. Just 2 lives that fit. For the first time, home felt like home. 2 years into that steady rhythm, I proposed. Nothing flashy. Just a clean ring, a quiet moment, and her answer without hesitation, yes. We married in my backyard. My brother stood beside me, her sister beside her. No stage show for strangers. Just family, vows, and laughter under string lights. 8 months later, she told me we were expecting. That night I cleared space in the garage and began building a crib with my own hands. Cutting, sanding, staining. Each piece of wood meant something. Each rail was a promise. Life was simple. Work, home, love, and the sound of my daughter's heartbeat in an ultrasound photo pinned to the fridge. And then one night my brother called. His voice carried that edge, half gossip, half warning. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "It's Monique. That man she left you for? Turns out he's a fraud. The story unraveled quick. Her dream man was no visionary. He was running shell companies, laundering money, faking deals. And Monique? She wasn't just standing beside him at cocktail parties. Her name was on the paperwork. When the FBI came knocking, he vanished, leaving her holding the bag. She lost her job, burned through savings on lawyers, and started sinking fast. Meanwhile, I was sanding crib rails, listening to the news, and thinking figures. She'd wanted an upgrade. She got one. That was when the messages started. First it was casual. Unknown numbers. Hey, how you been? Blocked. Then came desperation. I know you hate me, but I was used. I need someone like you in my corner. She even dropped a number. $20,000 for legal fees. You always believed in me before, help me now. I never replied. Every number blocked. Every letter shredded. My wife, Tasha, knew the story, and she stood with me solid. Then came the baby shower. Family, friends, burgers on the grill, music in the backyard. Calm, joyful, until the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was. Monique looked nothing like the woman I remembered. Her hair was dull, her clothes hung loose, and her eyes darted like she was waiting to be let in. Darius, she whispered, I know this is unexpected, but I need help. She admitted to hiring a private investigator to find my address, like it was normal. What do you want? I asked, blocking the doorway. 20,000, she said flat. For legal fees. For survival. After everything we had, you owe me that. Behind me, Tasha walked up, hand resting on her belly. Hi, I'm his wife, she said politely. Monique's eyes dropped to her stomach. How far along? 7 months, Tasha answered. We're having a girl. Her face twisted. Congratulations, she muttered, then looked at me sharply. But we need to talk. Privately. Her desperation boiled over. She raised her voice, insisting I owed her, that I couldn't abandon her now. She tried to push past me into my home. Last warning, I said steady. Leave now. She shook her head. You'll regret this. So I called 911. The cops came, separated us, took our IDs. They asked if I wanted charges pressed. I didn't. I just wanted her gone. They wrote up a trespass warning, walked her to the cruiser, and dropped her at the end of the block. I went back to the backyard where my family laughed beneath the string lights. My brother gave me a look. I nodded back. That was the end of it, or so I thought. But Monique wasn't wired to quit. She found new numbers, new accounts, new angles. One message swore she still loved me. The next threatened to tell the truth if I didn't pay. Truth about what? That she cheated and got burned? Even my office line got it. She pretended to be a client until the receptionist flagged her. Finally, she mailed a 3-page handwritten letter, rambling about fate and second chances. I didn't finish page 1 before shredding it. Her power was gone. Her voice, nothing but noise. Then came the final nail. A headline with her name and his, side by side. Fraud. Theft. Conspiracy. Court filings showed she'd signed off on their fake consulting firm. He cut a deal. She didn't. Facing years behind bars, she tried one last time to paint herself as a victim in court. But the judge silenced her mid-sentence. Your choices speak for themselves, he said. And that was it. Follow NaayaStories now, because when someone who called you a backup plan falls this hard, you'll want to see exactly how the chapter closes. By then, my daughter had arrived. Tiny, perfect, crying against my chest in that hospital room. Tasha resting beside me. And I remember thinking, this is why I never look back. I didn't feel relief about Monique's downfall. I didn't feel pity either. I felt nothing. She was gone. Out of my story. Life kept moving forward. Work stayed steady. Clients trusted me. My wife and daughter filled my home with laughter and peace. My garage workshop buzzed with new projects. Meanwhile, Monique sat behind bars, her once polished image reduced to a mugshot in the county record. The woman who told me I was her practice run was now practicing survival in a place with no mirrors and no audience. Years later, I still get asked if I'd ever take her call. My answer never changes. No. She made her choice. I made mine. The difference is I built my life piece by piece. She gambled hers on illusions. And illusions always collapse. If you're reading this, let me tell you something. Never beg to stay in someone's life once they've shown you they don't value you. Walk away. Build. Grow. Because the day will come when they look back and realize they lost the best thing they ever had. And by then, it'll be too late. Right arrow, that's why you should follow Naya Stories for more true lessons wrapped in stories that'll hit your chest and remind you of your worth. So here I stand today. A husband, a father, a man with a steady career, a home I built with my own two hands, and a family that loves me without conditions. Monique. She became a cautionary tale I no longer have to tell. And maybe that's the real revenge, not anger, not shouting, not proving her wrong. The real revenge is peace.